Today, I have the pleasure of interviewing Michelle Goossens, who has recently passed the VCP exam at just 19 years old, a fantastic achievement. Today, we'll be learning about Michelle's journey to achieving the certification and what her future holds now. Michelle, why did you want the VCP?
For my future, like it looks good on your CV when I can find a job, but also as more of a challenge to myself, like, hey, do I have the knowledge purely from my home lab experience? Because as something that no one knows is that for the certification, I did not learn beforehand. I just took from the experience I have from my home lab, and I took that, and with that knowledge, I went into the exam. I did not learn beforehand, like specifically going through. So it's.
And how did you go about studying for the VCP?
I have a home lab. I use that to learn VMware products, and I more or less do it as a hobby. I do want to make it into my job, which is why I also went for the VCP, because it looks good when you apply somewhere, like, hey, you have the VCP. Just from that, just build labs for what can be in the exam. And I just learned that way, but I already did that before I even decided I was gonna go for the exam. So all I did really was, like, a week before the exam, I just spun up another nested lab. I just went through everything just once more in case anything has changed that I haven't looked at in a while. And then I just went all in on the exam.
So what are you hoping for the certification will do for you now?
I'm hoping that when I start to apply for jobs, which I will do at some point, it'll show whoever I apply to, like, hey, she says she has this experience, and looking at the cert, she indeed does have that, because otherwise she won't have that cert. So just as a way to kind of stick out in the application stack, so to say.
What would you say your main tech interests are?
And enterprise infrastructure, so like servers, more advanced networking, things like that. Those are my main interests. Now, it has changed over the few years, because right now I am 19, and I started in my first interest in IT was computers, like, the regular things that we use. That started when I was younger. My dad and great uncle, they had a PC business together. So, just like your average PC repair shop. And when I was like 6 or 7, I started to get interested in those things with blinking lights. So it started that they would let me, help out with like the basic things. And then I started to get really interested in it. And then over the years, I went from being interested in computers to servers. And then that has now expanded to servers and networking in like a bit of an enterprise or company infrastructure. So, like more advanced routing, like actual servers with HA setups and those kind of things.
Where do you see the industry going in the next 5 years?
From what I read from others and friends of mine, it's going a lot of different places. Like, for sure, it seems like the cloud is still becoming the thing. And I have also seen from companies that I work with as like a volunteer that they are also migrating more to the cloud, whether that be on like public cloud or VMware on something. So just fill in the public cloud provider because they have a lot. So definitely more towards there. So there's gonna be people who, I think companies are gonna start looking for admins who not only have experience with VMware, but also with other cloud-related things, like any cloud providers that the company may use. And then there's the thing I read about how Kubernetes is really growing, especially now that the Tanzu offering is expanding. And I also think that that'll be adapted more. But then the question is for the company mostly is it worth it to build the app in a way it'll work on Kubernetes and leverage that? And like, will that be worth it? Because if you only have like 2 apps versus 200, then, there's a bit of a difference there.
And you mentioned a few times that you've been doing some reading. Do you have any interesting articles or books that you'd recommend to anyone else who's thinking about doing the VCP?
I mean, it depends on how you learn. I have 2 books. One of them is Mastering VMware vSphere 6.7, which is outdated now because the latest exam 2021 is based on 7.0. But there's still, like, not everything, but still a lot is still valid on vSphere 7. There's just some changes and some extra things. Or if you're more of a visual learner, then Hands-on Labs is also a great place to look. Or if you really want to, you can start your own home lab like I did. So books, there's YouTube, VMware documentation. Hands-on Labs is great because you can just, it's free and you can get hands-on experience while not having to invest in a home lab like I did, which was like a 6-year project that's still going because saving up doesn't go as fast. But yeah, those are the resources I would recommend if you wanted to go for the VCP, or even if you just want to learn VMware in general, then it's also, great resources depending on what your way of learning.
And would you say, kind of in regards to the VCP/tech, is there anything else interesting and relevant that you want to cover?
Like about me, myself, there's like a whole long story with how and why in my home lab, which has also been an adventure.
Of course, please feel free.
Because it used to be a home lab, now it's a data center home lab-ish. So, like as you said at the beginning, I'm still 19. I still live with my parents, and parents don't appreciate if you put loud servers in the room below their bedroom. So once I got my disability benefit approved, which is why I don't have a job, I looked into like nearby data centers to put my 2 servers I had at a time, which are still 10 years old, but they still run. So probably not for long. I think when the next major vSphere version comes out, then it's not going to run anymore. But so yeah, I looked at DCs. I got a nearby, it's like a 10-minute drive, 15 minutes, depending on traffic. And then he gave me a good deal, the owner. I'm the only non-business person in that whole building. And I moved my stuff there, my 2 servers, which then became 3, which is now 4 servers, and the router and network switch, of course. And yeah, it's been fun. My home lab, it's just a bit pricey, especially the upfront cost for buying the servers. I run kind of larger labs as well, like NSXT and such. And especially when you get to like vRealize automation and NSXT intelligence, you're gonna need a lot of resources.
How often would you say you spend time in your home lab?
And since it's my main hobby, I spend like every day in there. It's one of the few things I actually do during the day, because I am inside a lot on my PC, and like most of my time when I am not sleeping, you can find me on my computer in my office, spending time on my home lab, learning new things, trying new things, trying to make things fit, which mostly consists of running, which I also blog about, because I'm also a second-year vExpert now.
Oh, that's amazing.
I got approved for VExpert in the year I turned 18, which was also a whole thing, apparently. So yeah, what I also try to do is how small can I make things before it breaks? And then, in the blog post, there's like a big disclaimer, like, we do not support this, VMware does not, neither do I, but it works, kind of.
What would you say to someone else going after a VCP certification?
I'd say, like, if you want to go for it, like, depending on your experience, do learn. Hands-on labs is like, it's free, and it's something I really recommend, because something with hands-on labs is they have a guide depending on what you want to do. But I spoke with someone on the hands-on labs team, and they also said, like, you don't have to specifically follow for that lab, like the guide. So you can also tinker around a bit yourself within like limits, of course. Do go for it, learn for it. Don't be afraid. It is like, even I was like almost shaking. That's how nervous I was. But that's also a bit because of how I'm wired with my autism. But what I would say to someone, whoever you are, if you want to go for the VCP, learn in the way that works for you, whether that be books like reading or visual or hands-on through hands-on labs. Take your time for it. It's not like you need to do it yesterday. Take your time for it. Don't worry about running out of time. You will get plenty of time. And, first and foremost is also try to enjoy it. Like, don't do it don't take the shirt if you hate it, so to say. Yeah, just to sum it up, take your time to learn sufficiently. Also look online, because online VMware has a document about all the things that can be in the exam, which doesn't mean that there is, but there can be. That's something I followed as well, which also really helps, because if you look at the VCP, there's different versions. You have like the data center virtualization, which I have. You have network virtualization, which I would like to do, but don't have the money for. So yeah, a lot of talking, because I can talk a lot once I get going. But yeah, learn, go for it. And, if you fail, it's not the end of the world. Just try again. And if you really want to and you learn that, trust me, you will get it. And if you have some experience already, then you will see that it's going to be fine. And even if you don't, if you're new to VMware, if you learn and you learn what is in the document, you will pass. Period.
That's great. That was a great ending to our interview. Very inspirational. It sounds like, yeah, you've done an amazing job, and well done again for earning the VCP. And I'm sure you've got a great future ahead of you.